Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න. Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න.
Nava Dove Healthy Ritual 4 එකක් moisturizing milk cornflour සහ coconut oil සමගින්.
On First at 9 tonight, this Saturday, the 5th of November 2022. Bouncing back, Sri Lanka's tourism earnings surpassed $1 billion for the first time since 2019. Authorities confident of achieving arrivals targets. Locals overseas. Sri Lanka Canadian delegation seeks joint venture opportunities.
We are collaborative partners. Or joint venture. That's what we are looking for.
State Minister Taraka Balasurya says it is important to obtain assistance of Sri Lankans overseas to drive the country forward.
It's very important to welcome the people of Sri Lankan origin to Sri Lanka in order to take this country forward.
Process begins. Prime Minister appoints committee for the demarcation of wards for local authorities after President calls to halve the number of local government members to 4,000.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Indivadi Amuata. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a warm welcome. Joining you tonight, we have the latest developments both locally and internationally. Sri Lanka's earnings from tourism during the period between January and October this year surpassed $1 billion for the first time since year 2019. According to Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, nearly 570,000 tourists have so far arrived in Sri Lanka, which is an increase of around 370,000 arrivals compared to the same period last year. With this development, Sri Lanka only needs around 270,000 more tourists to achieve the revised arrivals targets of 800,000 visitors this year.
In 2018, Sri Lankan tourism industry had its best year, receiving 2.3 million tourists, which is still the highest number received in the island in a year so far. Earnings during that year was a staggering $4.3 billion. Even though there were greater expectations in 2019 in terms of more tourist arrivals and earnings, the deadly Easter Sunday attacks in April posed a major blow on the industry, and as a result, tourist arrivals declined by around 400,000 to 1.9 million, while earnings reduced to $3.6 billion. The industry fell further during the years of 2022 and 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. International travel restrictions were imposed to control the spread of the virus. Arrivals during both 2020 and 2021 stood at low figures of 507,704 and 194,495 respectively. Following a successful global vaccination rollout, the spread of COVID-19 reached to a controllable state, and there were hopes that Sri Lankan tourism will revive and soon be a major contributor to country's foreign exchange earnings. Despite an economic crisis this year, Sri Lanka was able to attract 568,258 tourists during the first 10 months, bringing an inflow of $1.02 billion. This is the first time after 2019 pre-pandemic period the country's tourism income surpassed the $1 billion mark. India, the United Kingdom, Russia, Germany and France are the top primary markets of Sri Lanka, which contributed to this performance. In October, tourism earnings stood at $75.6 million, which is an increase compared to $54 million in September this year. As per the revised target, Sri Lanka aims to attract 800,000 tourists this year. According to Minister of Tourism Harin Fernando, More tourist arrivals are expected during November and December, with the resumption of Russia's Aeroflot, Azur Air, Air France, KLM Royal Dutch Airlines of Netherlands and Swiss International Airlines of Switzerland.
State Minister of Foreign Affairs Tharaka Balasurya says it is important to welcome Sri Lankans overseas to invest and to do business in the island in order to drive the country forward. He made these comments addressing a media briefing with the Canada-Sri Lanka Business Convention, which is currently in Sri Lanka, to explore investment opportunities in the country. President of the Canada-Sri Lanka Business Convention, Kula Selature, said that they will help Sri Lanka by opening up joint ventures and strengthening small and medium-scale enterprises.
A high-level delegation of industry and corporate leaders of Sri Lankan origin from Canada visited Sri Lanka to engage in economic and commercial activity and to contribute to the island's economy.
Some of the members of these delegations have already invested in Sri Lanka, while others are exploring opportunities here. While investment is their primary focus, they are also promoting reconciliation and the need to work together for betterment of our country. The message which we can certainly give to the delegates is this is your home. And there are a lot of things which we need to do, things pertaining to such as accountability, things pertaining to reconciliation, things pertaining to devolution of power. But while we work on these issues, I think it's very important to welcome people of Sri Lankan origin to Sri Lanka in order to take this country forward.
Even though we live in Canada for a long time, we have a heart towards Sri Lanka for many reasons. We don't want to lose our identity as Sri Lankans. We don't want to lose our children's identity. So even though our children are born in that country, we like to keep them as Sri Lankan Canadians. That's the identity we like to carry. This was a great opportunity for me as the entrepreneur to come back and help Sri Lanka's most needed support. This is breaking the point, ice breaking they call it. We broke the ice of the diaspora or the international Sri Lankan community to think towards Sri Lanka. In the meantime, we are asking Sri Lankan brothers and sisters to come towards, work with us, see how we can help you. We are here to support some startup companies. If people are willing to export to countries like Canada, USA, we will support them in our capacity, but when many countries like European countries, Australia and other part of the world, they can import to their own countries. So we have to connect that global standard, global link, and then obviously the producers of Sri Lanka have to lift them up to a global standard so that products or service that they have will be accepted in that part of the world. So we are working with multiple businesses in Sri Lanka. We are not going to run a business here. We are here to invest with them and be a collaborative partners or joint venture. That's what we are looking for mostly, then so we can help these businesses to grow together as transferring our knowledge, our technology and our funds into those entrepreneurs. We are here to look at the SMEs first. When the SMEs grow, the large corporations automatically come and invest their own money to build from there. So they want to see the confidence of the country's economy first. That's what we want to build first.
We hope on opening a overseas Sri Lankan's office, and then also we want to look at Truth and Reconciliation Commission similar to the one that was there in South Africa. So I think there's more of a political will in order to for reconciliation, but it's a very broad spectrum. There are other long-term things such as maybe introducing trilingual policy, then people can communicate much better with the other communities. So I'm very optimistic. We just need to build that trust and we need to build that confidence that both sides are genuine in building these bridges.
A Delimitation National Committee has been appointed by Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena on the demarcation of wards for local authorities. The committee will be headed by former Chairman of Election Commission Mahinda Deshapriya. The committee, which is appointed by and from effect from the 1st of November 2022, will work until the 28th of February next year. An extraordinary Gazette notification appointing a 5-member National Delimitation Committee on demarcation of wards for local authorities was issued by Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena yesterday in his capacity as the Minister of Public Administration, Home Affairs, Provincial Councils and Local Government. According to the Gazette, the committee is headed by former Chairman of the Election Commission Mahinda Deshapriya. Jayalat R.V. Disanayaka, WMMR Adhikari, K. Tavalingam and I.A. Hamid will serve as the members of the committee. Earlier last month, President Ranil Wickremesinghe said he expects to reduce the number of council members of local authorities from 8,000 to 4,000 and to implement the Jana Sabha system before the next election. He also said that executive powers of Pradesh Sabha will be vested on a chairman-based committee instead of the same being vested on a single chairman. The head of state added that these laws will be drafted for the amendment before the next local government election. Further, President Wickremesinghe said the desired changes to the political system should be brought about in accordance with the aspirations of the people, as the majority of the population in the country rejects the existing political system. And the Met Department warns of fairly heavy showers and thunder showers during the day tomorrow. NBRO also warns of landslides. We'll find out the areas and details when we return after this break.
අයිනෝ රයිනෝ පුතා හැබැයි යා ගෙදර නිදියන්නෙම අමුතු තැනක.
කාලගුණය කොහොමුණත් රයිනෝ නං වහලට සේෆ් තමයි මුළු ගෙදරම. Rhino Cement Roofing Sheets. Then you know Rhino. I know.
Big 3.
Welcome back to the news. A number of committees, including the Committee on Public Enterprises and Committee on Public Accounts, are scheduled to meet next week. Accordingly, the Lanka Coal Company has been summoned before the Committee on Public Enterprises on November 9th. The Committee on Public Accounts is scheduled to meet on the 8th of November to look into the special audit report on performance in the process of producing vegetable seeds locally. Further, the respective departments have been summoned before the Committee on Public Accounts on the 11th of November for the purpose of the evaluation of performance of clinical waste management. According to the Communications Department of Sri Lanka Parliament, several ministerial consultative committees are also scheduled to meet next week. The Department of Meteorology today forecasts that heavy showers of above 75 millimeters can be expected in several parts of the island during tomorrow. Taking the situation into account, the National Building Research Organisation extended their early landslide warnings to several areas in 6 districts across the country.
The general weather forecast issued by the Department of Meteorology at 12 noon today pre-warns of spells of showers and thunder showers in most parts of the country during the afternoon or night. The Department of Meteorology says that fairly heavy showers of above 75 millimeters can be expected at some places in the western and Sabaragamu provinces and in the Galle and Mathura districts. The Met Department further added that spells of showers may also occur in the southern and western provinces and in Putlam and Jaffna districts during the morning. By taking the expected showers and thunderstorms into account, the public is advised to take necessary precautions to minimize the damages caused by temporarily localized strong winds and lightning during the thunder showers. The department went on to say that showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in the sea areas around the island. They also warned of very rough seas and strong gusty winds during the thunder showers, adding that wind speed may increase up to 40 km per hour in the sea areas off the coast extending from Galle to Hambantota via Mathura. Meanwhile, taking the latest weather patterns into account, the Department of National Building Research Organisation updated and extended its early landslide warnings for several areas in 6 districts.
Warning level 2 alert amber warning was issued to Passara Division Secretary Division Badula District, Ududumbara Division Secretary Division Kandy District, Amagamu Korle Division Secretary Division Noradia District, and warning level 1 watch yellow warning was issued to Halial and Lunugala Division Secretary Divisions in Badula District, Madadumbara Gangawata Korle and Pathadumbara Division Secretary Division Kandy District, Yatiantota Darnegala Deyovita Ruanwell and Mavanella Division Secretary Division Kegol District, Ridigama Division Secretary Division Kuranga District, Ukuela, Amangankorle, Rattota and Matale, Division Secretary Division Matale District, Bibila, Division Secretary Division Monraga District.
Now another consignment of 500 metric tons of rice donated by China arrived at the Colombo port yesterday. Following its arrival, the consignment was handed over to the Ministry of Education by the Chinese Embassy in Colombo. According to the embassy, the batch of rice will be distributed among students in need from the eastern province. The Chinese mission in Colombo added that the latest rice donation brings China's total aid tally to Sri Lanka up to 6,000 metric tons since the month of June. Meanwhile, the government of Iran donated an urgently required consignment of essential medicine and other medical supplies to Sri Lanka. The donation consisted 119 essential medical items, was recently handed over to the Sri Lankan ambassador in Iran, Vishwanath Aponso, by the Iranian government during a ceremony in Tehran. Issuing a statement, the Sri Lankan Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the total value of the medicine consignment amounts to $294,743. The statement also went on to say that the Sri Lankan embassy in Tehran has made immediate arrangements to dispatch the medical consignment to Sri Lanka. The shipment is expected to arrive at the Colombo port by mid-November. Workers' remittances to Sri Lanka increased in September to a value of $359 million, recording the highest monthly remittances so far this year. This figure is an improvement of $34 million compared to $325 million recorded in August. Earnings from exports, meanwhile, remained robust in September, while import expenditure declined for the 7th consecutive month, reflecting the significant reduction in imports of non-food consumer goods and investment goods.
According to Central Bank's External Sector Performance Report for the month of September, earnings from merchandise exports stood at $1.07 billion, which is a 4.3% increase compared to September 2021. An increase in earnings was observed in industrial and agricultural exports, while a marginal decline was recorded in mineral exports. Cumulative export earnings during the period between January and September amounted to $9.98 billion, which is an 11.7% year-on-year increase. Meanwhile, the value of merchandise import expenditure for September 2022 was $1.286 billion, a 15.8% decline compared to the corresponding period of 2021, which recorded $1.52 billion. A decline in import expenditure was observed in investment goods and non-food consumer goods, mainly resulted from the measures to compress imports. Cumulative import expenditure between January and September this year was $14 billion. The balance in the merchandise trade account recorded a deficit of $206 million in September this year, which is a reduction when compared to the $261 million deficit recorded in August. The cumulative deficit in the trade account during January to September 2022 meanwhile narrowed to $4.1 billion from $5.99 billion recorded during the same period of last year. Meanwhile, workers' remittances increased to $359 million during September 2022 in comparison to $325 million recorded in August. Total departures for foreign employment in September were recorded at 30,084, while the value between January and September this year were recorded at 22,678, exceeding the annual departures during pre-pandemic. Tourist arrivals moderated in September to 29,802 from 37,760 arrivals in August 2022. Earnings from tourism in the month of September were estimated at $54 million, which is a $14 million reduction compared to $68 million in the previous month.
Official reserve assets of Sri Lanka stood at $1,704 billion at the end of October this year. According to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, this is a decrease of 4.2% from the official reserve assets figure of $1,779 billion in September 2022. This includes the swap facility from the People's Bank of China, equivalent to around $1.4 billion, which is subject to conditionalities on usability. Further, foreign assets, which consist of gross official reserves and gross foreign assets of the banking sector amounted to $6 billion at the end of September. Well, Twitter's new owner Elon Musk says he had no choice but to slash the company's workforce as the firm is losing more than $4 million a day. The comment comes after Twitter laid off thousands of employees in departments across the company.
Yesterday, Twitter laid off thousands of employees in departments across the company in a severe round of cost-cutting that could potentially upend how one of the world's most influential platforms operates 1 week after it was acquired by billionaire Elon Musk. Numerous Twitter employees began posting on the platform on Thursday night and yesterday morning that they had already been locked out of their company email accounts ahead of the planned layoff notification. According to employees, an internal email sent to staff earlier yesterday said the mass job cuts were unfortunately necessary to ensure the company's success moving forward. Elon Musk posted his own comments, saying he was presented no choice over what he called Twitter's reduction in force, as the company was losing $4 million a day. He insisted that all those losing their jobs were offered 3 months of severance pay, which is 50% more than legally required. However, according to reports, the employees filed a class action lawsuit on Thursday, which argued the company was making big job cuts without giving 60 days notice, in violation of federal and Californian law. In this backdrop, there are concerns Twitter could water down content moderation, but according to Musk, the firm's policies remain absolutely unchanged.
And that wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thanks for joining us. We're available on mobile and on social media 24 hours a day. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time. Good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.